Thank you, Ryan Gill. Good morning, Unity of Music City. As Deb Moore said a while ago, she said it best. It is so wonderful to see so many warm bodies in our room today.
Yes.
So welcome everyone, welcome you at home, and please stand up and join us for our first song.
Mary was the first one to carry the gospel, and the angels brought the news of that precious little boy. Mary was the first one to carry the gospel, and that news brought joy, sweet joy. Here we go. Mary was the first one to carry the gospel, and the angels brought the news of that precious little boy. Mary was the first one to carry the gospel, and that news brought joy, sweet joy. The shepherds watched their flocks by night and merely fell asleep. Another lonely, quiet night of watching all those sheep, until a choir of holy angels pierced the night with songs of joy. Good news I bring, for Christ the King is Mary's baby boy. Mary was the first one to carry the gospel, and the angels brought the news of that precious little boy. Mary was the first one to carry the gospel, and that news brought joy, sweet joy. Hosanna to the highest, Christ the baby born. God's story wrapped in swaddling clothes, the meek and holy one. This baby boy will change the hearts of all who can believe. What the prophets told has come to pass, the world now has received. Mary was the first one to carry the gospel, and the angels brought the news of that precious little boy. Mary was the first one to carry the gospel, and that news brought joy, sweet joy. Mary was the first one to carry the gospel, and the angels brought the news of that precious little boy. Mary was the first one to carry the gospel, and that news brought joy, sweet joy. And that news brought joy, sweet joy. And that news brought joy, sweet. It brought joy for the baby boy. Joy.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Oh, it is so wonderful to see more than 5 people in the room. It's great. We love it. More energy. It just makes me so happy, so happy. Some announcements. There are a few, but there are some that are important. Today is our town hall meeting following the service, as we all know, at 12:30. So it begins on Zoom at 12:30. Join us here in the sanctuary or via Zoom. Zoom information was emailed yesterday, or you can find it in the weekly happening if you're still looking for that. Small trees are back there in the back, all alone, and they need a new home. They need a new home. They're living, they're breathing, and they're waiting for you. So if you'd like a baby tree, and it's not hard, see someone here at the church, you can contact Trish Marshall. Call the office if you want her telephone number, and they will be happy to rehome a baby tree. Us tree huggers, Elsie, that's what we do. So just so you know, for the tree huggers and those who would love to be a tree hugger. Okay. Join the Lunch Bunch, the book club that we have going via Zoom on Wednesday, every Wednesday. At 11:30, we are reading the book Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. Again, if you've never smelled sweetgrass, if you smell it, you know why they call it sweet grass, because it is wonderful. It's heavenly. Contact Karen Burr for more information, or see the weekly email for that address. Thanks. Let's sing.
Long ago a child was born, a gift to all mankind, a gift that's with us till today. If we seek Him, peace we'll find. Let me see Him, let me be Him in all I do and say. Let me hold Him closer to me.
Okay, thank you. Sacred reading for the day, the word for the day is love. And the affirmation is love surrounds me and fills my heart. Love fills my senses throughout this Advent season. I find it in the taste and aroma of my favorite holiday recipes, lovingly made. I hear it in my favorite Christmas music, sung with joy. I feel love in a child's enthusiastic hug and a friend's caring touch. I see love and joy in the festive decorations adorning the houses and neighborhoods. The love of friends, family, and neighbors at Christmas time surrounds me in so many ways. Throughout the year, love remains the most beautiful evidence of the presence of God and through all things. Love is the harmonizing power that infuses the world and everyone in it. Inspired by divine love, I perceive the divine in every person in all situations. And from 1 Corinthians 13:13, and now faith, hope, and love abide, these three, and the greatest of these is love.
Thank you, Rich. Love is born anew in me today. Let's take a moment together to just close our eyes, to shut out some of the noise of the world. And if you will, let's take a little vision trip together. See yourself sitting out in a field under a night sky. Stars are twinkling above. The sky is clear. You can hear the quiet baa of the sheep. And suddenly, a divine and holy being appears before you, a being of light. And for a moment, you are quite afraid. But instantly, the words come to you. Be not afraid. Behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy that shall be to all people. And immediately you feel bathed in love and light and assurance. Blessed, blessed assurance. And you know that under that night sky, all is well, and love is born anew in you in that moment. And together let us sit in that field under that night sky for a moment and feel the pure essence of love in the silence. In the silence. And as we completely release ourselves to love, a multitude of the heavenly host comes and joins and sings, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill to all human beings."
comes from me. Only goodness comes from me.
I believe that's my favorite song, Ryan. I'm pretty sure, as a matter of fact, it's one of my favorites. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Unity of Music City. Today, I bring you good tidings of great joy. But first, I'm going to depress the hell out of you. So be ready for that. But I promise you that I bring you good tidings of great joy. Because where better to bring good tidings of great joy than in the midst of the reality we see around us every day? Right? If we lived in great joy every day, great joy wouldn't be that big a deal. But when we live in through some tough times, great joy comes like a salve, like a balm to our spirit. And I'm going to bring you some today if I can. That's my wish and my desire. This is such a wonderful time of the year. It's that time when we get reminded of the power of great joy and it comes circling back around for us, right? This year feels a little different for me, I have to be honest with you. The joy feels different, but maybe it's coming around to us in an even more profound way. I'm going to hold on to that hope a little bit here. We see these times of our year cycle back around, right? The ancients called it the wheel of the year. We're coming back around on the wheel of the year again as we approach one of the 8 great Sabbats that happen in our natural calendar. We're getting ready for Yule, right? The ancient festival of Yule that, like so many ancient festivals, underwent a Christian reformulation, which is fine. It's still a time to make merry. That's what we're doing. We're making merry. And of course, that Yule still exists to a great deal in our modern celebration because most of us have probably put up a Christmas tree. I know I have. And we've hung some mistletoe and we've hung up some holly. And that is a reminder of how the wisdom of our ancients that knew that a new spot on the wheel of the year was coming around. It reminds me a little bit of spiral dynamics. I've had a lot of things lately that have come to my mind about this idea of circling back around and revisiting old times. And, you know, if you remember, Reverend Denise used to talk about spiral dynamics quite a bit. She had her beautiful little nesting dolls up there, which I don't have, otherwise I'd pull them out and show them to you. But that idea of spiral dynamics is that human evolution happens in a way that brings us back around to the same things, but from a higher point of view, right? We come back around and we revisit the same ideas. I know that I've done that throughout my life. I don't know about you, but I've had some things that maybe happened to me when I was younger, or experiences I had, or mistakes that I felt like I made, that every now and then will pop back up into my memory. And it's like, I thought I dealt with you. Why are you back again? And it comes and it pops back up. But every time, it comes in maybe a little softer way. And every time I feel a new piece of wisdom that I can apply to that time in my life. Spiral dynamics is this evolutionary development that talks about the way humans develop, the way organizations develop, the way systems develop, the way our global community develops. And as I've been thinking about spiral dynamics and things that keep coming back around again, like Christmas and like Yule, I see that we're in a very special year for that kind of energy. We have some really big coming back around energy in this year that we're living in. You know, most of us have been made aware of or recalled the fact that we had an epidemic in 1918, the Spanish flu epidemic, almost exactly 100 years ago. An estimated 17 to 50 million people died of that Spanish flu 100 years ago. And by the way, they were arguing about whether or not to wear masks. back then. And so this comes back around, right? I bring you good tidings of great joy. A vaccine is on the way, right? A vaccine is on the way. But that is one of the things that I see coming back around. There are some other interesting things in our world that I see cycling back through our experience. Recently, Nikki and I started watching a show on Hulu called Genius. It was originally produced by Nat Geo TV. It's phenomenal. I cannot recommend it strongly enough. And the first whole season deals with Einstein. The second season deals with Picasso. The third season, which is coming out next year, is going to be about Aretha Franklin. Cannot wait for that one. But that first season that deals with Einstein, it becomes very clear to the astute viewer, and maybe even the not so astute, maybe to the obtuse viewer as well. It becomes very clear in those first few episodes that Germany in 1920 looked a whole lot like America in 2020. Hitler, an art school dropout who'd already done a stint in prison, had written a book called Mein Kampf that was becoming a bestseller, and a lot of little different groups of racial supremacists and nationalists and purists were finding him to be the tip of the spear they could get behind. Middle-class Germany thought he was crazy and paid him very little attention. And 20 years later, we're in the heart of a world war where millions of Jews are being killed. It looked so similar. It was eerie. It was eerie. And after noticing that, just this past week, I saw an NPR article about the rise of fascism and neo-Nazi ideology within the ranks of the police force in Germany. They're now investigating the police force in Germany because of these fears. In this past week, I saw an article about the Minnesota mosque bombing of 2017. The suspect was convicted, and it said he is the leader of a white supremacist group and a former sheriff's deputy. Just this past week, a friend of mine posted an article from WBUR, and this was the headline: "In Kentucky, student journalists uncover Nazi imagery in police training." And in the article, you went on to find out that they used quotes from Adolf Hitler, not ironically, not as a moral lesson about what not to do, but as guidance. And I thought that was the end of my list. And then this morning, while I was laying in bed, between my snooze alarms, between my 4 snooze alarms, I opened my phone and I went to Twitter. Now that's odd. I never go to Twitter first thing in the morning. I don't want to start my day that way. But for some reason, who knows why, I went to Twitter, and the very first thing I saw was a post from Marianne Williamson, someone many of us respect and admire and listen to. Yesterday in Washington, D.C., you might have seen the news that there was a little gathering of several different groups of people, among them a group that's ironically maybe called the Proud Boys, that are known for their racial supremacy, their white supremacy ideas. Marianne Williamson posted a video of them beating up a young man and woman, looked to be of Asian descent to me, who were just walking down the street. It looked so much like the first and second season of Einstein. It was freaky. And this is what Marianne Williamson wrote. "Tell me how this is not like Berlin in 1935. Really, somebody tell me." All of those were this week. Every single item on my list. I don't say these things to depress you. I really don't. Or to take away the joy of the season. I say these things to tell you, we have been here before. We have been here before. The circle is turning, and we are indeed on a spiral. And the great question is, are we ready to be diligent from a higher point of view? Are we ready to face these same challenges that are thrust up in our face from a higher place? Spiritual evolution is not about evolving past all the challenges, at least not while we're still on this planet. It's about being a little bit more prepared, a little bit better prepared every day to deal with them. It's about looking back on the last time that we circled around to this place and being able to say, I wasn't quite as prepared as I should be back then, but I am now. I know where I stand. I know what I believe, right? And I know what I'm going to do. I know who I'm going to show up as. I'm ready to face this challenge from a higher place. The global spiral is especially interesting this year. We share so many spirals together. We're sharing this pandemic spiral together. We're sharing the white supremacy, racist spiral together, the nationalism spiral together, spirals of politics we're sharing together, right? There's a reason why every 4 years, here comes another presidential election, we spiral back around. And each of these spirals moves at a slightly different pace. It makes me think about the planets revolving the sun, right? The planets don't revolve at the same, they don't all just come around at the same time. They're all on different paths. The ones closest in generally going faster. Their years are shorter, right? But what is interesting, and what I want to think about for just a moment, I'm going to take you to science class for just a brief second here. The old model that we used to have, the one that we used to see in elementary school with, maybe we even had a physical representation of the sun in the middle and the little planets moving around it, totally false. It's like it's a plate, right? But the truth is that the sun is moving. The sun is moving at a really fast speed. It's moving at about 124 miles per second, right? Which is about 448,000 miles per hour. The sun is blasting through the universe. And all of these planets in our solar system are swirling around in the gravitational wake of this sun, this star that's moving through. So what's really happening is here's the sun and here are the planets just hanging on to the gravitational pull of it. And so what's happening is the planets are spiraling. Planets aren't revolving, planets are spiraling, right? We're all on a huge spiral. All of this is bringing about something that you may have heard tell of in the last couple of weeks. It's something called the Great Conjunction. I'm so glad Frank is here because when I say something wrong, he can fix it for me. I am not an astrologer. I'm just a learner and a searcher. The Great Conjunction is scheduled to happen, and what that means is that Jupiter and Saturn are going to appear very close in the sky. They're not any closer than they would normally be. They're still millions and maybe billions of miles from each other. I don't know how long the distance is, but the truth is that to our eye, they're going to look like, because their gravitational wake spiral is going to bring them to about the same place in the sky. They're lining up for us. And we're going to be able to see them just above the western horizon. So here's what's interesting. They say, you know who they are, right? Nobody knows who they are, but they're out there and they say things. They say that the Star of Bethlehem was very likely a planetary conjunction, right? It was two planets coming together. They believe that 2,000 years ago, it was the coming together of Venus and Jupiter. Now, when I hear, as a non-astrologer, when I hear Venus and Jupiter, here's what I hear. Jupiter, big. Venus, love. 2,000 years ago, a star bringing big love shone in the sky. And we're getting ready for the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. Not quite Jupiter and Venus. This comes right off of some website that I just randomly Googled. It says in astrology, Saturn is associated with restriction and limitation. Well, that doesn't sound so good. Where Jupiter expands, Saturn constricts. We're going to have a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. Sounds to me like that might have something to do with balance, expanding and constricting at the same time, finding the middle ground. Although the themes of Saturn seem depressing, Saturn brings structure and meaning to our world. Makes me think of, ironically, just a couple of weeks ago, I quoted Viktor Frankl's book on man's search for meaning, a man who found out that people live for meaning while he was imprisoned in a Nazi concentration camp. Saturn knows the limits of time and matter. Saturn reminds us of our boundaries, our responsibilities, and our commitments. Whew, there's a lot to unpack there. You know, the last time we had a planetary conjunction, these things don't happen very often. And again, I'm not an astrologer, but it seems to me like we've had a lot of those things lately. Oh, first time in 400 years. Oh, first time in 500 years. We're getting a lot of that stuff coming around. The last time there was a planetary conjunction was in 1623. But apparently it was cloudy or something because nobody saw it. At least nobody in the Western world who wrote these things in English. I'm sure there was some little Chinese astrologer off somewhere who saw it fine, but we just don't have record of that. The last time it was visible to the naked eye, as it's going to be for us, was 1226. Almost 800 years ago was the last time we were able to see this. And for us, guess when it's coming? December 21st. The winter solstice. Yule. The Star of Bethlehem is returning to us on Yule. I don't even know how to explain why that means something, but that means something to me so deep down on a primal level that I can hardly express it. So let's take a moment to remember what that star brought us over 2,000 years ago. I'm going to Luke chapter 2, verses 1 through 21. It's the Christmas story. And you know, normally I really like the Message and I really like the New International Version and things like that, but I'm going to go back to the good old King James Version because the language of that is almost part of our DNA now. And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. By the way, the NIV said there should be a census. And what did we just have? A census. And this taxing was first made when Cyrenius was governor of Syria. And all went to be taxed, every one into his own city. And Joseph also went up from Galilee, out of the city of Nazareth into Judea, unto the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David, to be taxed with Mary, his espoused wife, being great with child. And so it was that while they were there, the days were accomplished that she should be delivered. And she brought forth her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. And there were in the same country shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them. And the glory of the Lord shone round about them, and they were sore afraid. The NIV says they were terrified. And the angel said unto them, Fear not. For behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you, ye shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host, praising God and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men. And it came to pass, as the angels were gone away from them into heaven, the shepherds said one to another, Let us now go even unto Bethlehem, and see this thing which is come to pass, which the Lord hath made known unto us. And they came with haste, and found Mary and Joseph and the babe lying in a manger. And when they had seen it, listen carefully to this part. I'm going to come back around to it. When they had seen it, they made known abroad the saying which was told them concerning the child. And all they that heard it wondered at those things which were told them by the shepherds. But Mary kept all these things and pondered them in her heart. And the shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all the things that they had heard and seen as it was told unto them. And when 8 days were accomplished for the circumcising of the child, his name was called Jesus, Yeshua, which was so named of the angel before he was conceived in the womb. In the 2nd chapter of Matthew is where we have the story of the Magi. I'm not going to read that one to you, but I'm going to hit a few high points about it because I think you remember it. We have the story of the 3 Magi who saw the star, the planetary conjunction. They consulted all of their ancient prophecies and their ancient texts, and they kind of had an idea what this meant. And so they got their whole entourage together on their camels, and they traveled a great distance. And because they were magi, because they were wise men, they were politically connected. And so the first thing they did, of course, was to go see their old buddy Herod. We'd better go see Herod and let him know we're here in his land and what we're about to do. And so they go see Herod, and they tell him all about this prophecy, about this child who's supposed to be born in Bethlehem when the star appears in the sky, and he's going to be the king of the Jews. And Matthew 2, verse 3 tells us that when Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. Now, I haven't historically paid a lot of attention to that phrase, but I want to spend a moment on that, all Jerusalem with him. You know, Herod, it is said, gathered all his chief priests and the scribes of the people. People knew about this. This was not some secret. We tend to think about it as only the people in the little nativity scene knew what was going on, and everybody else was oblivious. And the truth is, all Jerusalem with him was concerned about this. And this was a problem. This was a big problem. It was going to mess up what we got going on here. Right? All the plans and the politics and the ambitions and the ideas and the ideologies and all the stuff we've convinced people to believe, it's going to come through a wrench into all of that. It's going to be a problem. We've got this social contract figured out, and it's working just fine. People know their place, and they stick to it, and everything is fine. And this kid is going to be a problem. It's going to mess everything up. I imagine that people were nervous and on edge, because when leadership is nervous, people get nervous, right? They were unsure of what was going to happen in their world. And so, of course, as we know, Herod planned to kill him. He was a problem. You know what? It's a matter of national security. We can justify this. It's a matter of national security. We're going to kill this child because he's a problem. You know, somebody's coming along who's fixing to speak truth to power, and that will be a problem. So Herod told the wise men to go find the child and bring him to Herod, bring him back, so that Herod could worship him. And do you remember what happened? Here's what happened. The wise men had a dream, and in this dream they were told, don't return to Herod. And then Joseph had a dream, And in this dream, he was told to take Mary and this child and flee into Egypt. Herod was mad. He felt like he had been mocked. People had not respected his position. Don't talk to Herod that way. And so, of course, he did something out of vengeance. And he went and had every child under the age of 2 killed. Not just the boys. It says every child. Every child under the age of 2 killed. After Herod was dead, Herod eventually dies. Bad kings eventually die. Behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy. After Herod had died, Joseph had a dream that it was safe to return to Israel. As Joseph was traveling back with his young family, he heard that Herod's son was now the ruler. Joseph became afraid of that idea, and guess what? He had a dream. And the dream told him to turn aside and to go into Galilee, and so they settled in Nazareth. And settling in Nazareth fulfilled another prophecy that the Messiah would be a Nazarene. You know, the world is a bit uncertain today. Not acknowledging that, I think, would be intellectually dishonest. We see leaders who are determined to work their way around what has been written. We see the forces of nationalism and racism and separation and fear trying to rise up again, trying to circle back around. But I also believe, I know that forces unseen are working. Forces unseen are working on our behalf and trying to work with us. I believe they're trying to get our attention. They're coming to us in dreams and meditations and visions. They're sending us another star of Bethlehem. They're showing up in television programs and on billboards and in books we read. They're trying to get our attention every way that they can. They're spiraling around, coming back around to give us guidance as we face these challenges that also have spiraled back around. We have been here before as a species, as a collective. We have been here. Generations before us dealt with epidemics and wars and dictators and hatred and violence and racism and every other horrible thing you can imagine. They've dealt with it. It would be nice. It would be nice to believe that we had managed to eradicate these things from the face of the earth. It would be nice to believe that we've evolved. And sometimes, don't you think that sometimes we delude ourselves into thinking that we have? I think that's part of what caused this new spiral, was that we deluded ourselves into a place of complacency about these issues. It'd be nice to think we'd wipe them from the face of the earth, but evidence around us says otherwise. So, what will save us? We will. The Christ within is the Savior of the world. The Christ within is coming along to be born anew each day. The spirit of Namaste will save us. Remembering to listen to our dreams and follow our intuition will save us. Remembering to stay sensitive to every message, every warning, every bit of guidance that the universe, the heavens, the angels are trying to give us. Sometimes I notice myself poo-pooing something that came along. I think that the most spiritually connected I am are those moments when I pay attention to the little tiny messages, the most subtle, sensitive messages, and I stop to pay attention to the guidance I am receiving. It is time, I believe, for each of us to say, in the words of Martin Luther King, I have a dream. Angels came to me in a dream. I have seen a vision of what can be, And that vision includes on earth peace, goodwill to all. That is the vision. That is my dream. Evolving to the point of equality and love and respect and honoring of all can be a reality because we've held it as a vision. We have dreamed the dream. I don't know if you know Nadia Bolz-Weber. She's one of my favorite pastors out there in the world. She's a Lutheran pastor, but don't let either of those words fool you. She's a rebel with a cause. And she has really, really powerful stuff. Follow her on social media, look her up. She's amazing. She's been putting on her Instagram and her other social media accounts kind of little brief sermons. And she did one a couple of weeks ago that just went right through me. And I want to just kind of summarize what she was saying there in that little talk. She said, you know what? If it wasn't for Jesus, we probably wouldn't even know Herod's name. For all the importance and the power and the wealth and the puffed upness, that's a word, I just made it up, it's true. For all of that he had going for him, the truth of the matter is if it wasn't for Jesus of Nazareth, he would be nothing but a footnote. He is a footnote to the story of Jesus. And I tell you today that this pandemic and these political situations in the world and the personal struggles you have and the Proud Boys in the long run are going to be a footnote. They don't have any power. The power is in the story that's really happening, and that story is the one of hope and joy and peace and love. That is why the star shines in the sky. I bring you good tidings of great joy. You are not alone. You have angels visiting your dreams. A multitude of the heavenly hosts surrounds you, and the star of Bethlehem shines on you. Merry Christmas. Namaste.
Amazing message, Deb. Absolutely amazing. Namaste. I don't have anything to add to that. That was just wonderful. Good tidings to all. And on that note, we take tithes and offerings, donations. I'm open to receiving floods of financial abundance with ease so that I may be able to give back even more to the world around me. Because as we know, we take those tithes and offerings and they come back to us heaped up, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, for that's the law, and so it is. Shall we sing?
Thank you, God, for opening our hearts and for all we feel. We carry you with us as we leave this place, knowing a love that's so real. Here in this moment, we stand in our truth. We welcome the peace that it brings. God, as you guide us, renew and remind us that you are the reason we see. God, as you guide us, renew and remind us that you are the reason we see.
The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
We are love, joy, and peace. Everything else we release. We are love, joy, and peace. This is our gift to the world. We are love, joy, and peace. Everything else we release. We are love, joy, and peace. This is our gift to the world. This is our gift to the world.